we've traced it back to the 1720s. But it's here because the biggest copper mine in Europe was in Avoca at that time, and the mill was here. They ground corn for the miners and their families, and they wove fabric for them.
There were a family of three sisters called Wynne, and in the early 1920s they took it over. And they introduced colour. People who worked here under them described them coming down in the morning and always winding different strands of coloured yarn around their fingers to make the warp. So that it was very fortunate that they had a terrific colour sense, and the colour became the trademark of Avoca at that stage.
Just shows you how young people started to work. Helix is only about 12 or 13, yes.
This is more or less what the place looked like when we bought it. Outside vats where they washed the finished fabric, where they dyed, and the only covering was a corrugated iron sheet. When I think about buying the mill at that time, when I think back to it, you know, it gives me vertigo. It was so crazy. I was a solicitor, and I was acting for a man called Charlie Houlihan, who bought the place. We drove down to see Avoca on a Sunday in March of '74, and it was absolutely lashing rain, and water was pouring through every part of the place. Most of the place was falling down, and we met Jim Barry, the man who had been running it. And if it weren't for Jim, I mean, we wouldn't have even got out of the car. We would have gone straight back to Dublin and never thought about the place again. But Jim was so enthusiastic about the mill that he persuaded me that if someone were to resurrect it, it could be a success.
And on our way home, Donald said, "I think we should buy that place." I said, "If you buy it, I'll never talk to you again."
Charlie Houlihan, he said, "Well, what about it?" He was asking a fortune for a rundown place. And I said to Charlie, "If you sell it to me at half price and throw in all the stock, I'll buy it." And to my absolute astonishment, Charlie stretched his hand out and said, "That's a deal." So I rang Hillary. I told Hillary what I was doing, and she put the phone down.
I was a teacher at the time. We had 5 children, and I thought it was complete and utter lunacy. And of course I was right.
I appointed myself the sales manager. We were so naive that we thought that if you want to sell to England, you go to London. If you want to sell in London, you go to Harrods. So we decided that we would simply visit Harrods with bedspreads, which we were weaving then. And I had 3 suitcases, and Hillary dropped me at the front door of Harrods with no appointment with anyone, and in I went with the suitcases.
The arrangement was that I would keep driving around, because of course you can't stop outside Harrods, keep driving around, come back every 20 minutes. So when he wasn't there the first 20 minutes, he wasn't there the second 20 minutes, he wasn't there the third 20 minutes, I thought, this is fantastic, he's making a sale.
I was told that the buyer of bedspreads was on the top floor, so I put 2 of the suitcases into the lift, and with that the lift rocketed away, leaving me on the ground floor with 1 suitcase. Someone on the top floor had seen the suitcases and had taken them off the lift.
Needless to say, he didn't see any buyers.
It was retail sales that kept us going in the early days. Without the retail sales here, we couldn't have kept it going.
We became totally involved with the mill and people who worked here, and we felt it would have been a crime to have let the whole tradition disappear.